For FM, good afternoon to you. How is your Thursday going? It's Throwback Thursday, and before I turned on the microphone, I found myself going through some people's WhatsApp status and saw a lot of your throwback pictures, and it just sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like it's a fever. I caught the fever, and I had to go through my gallery, and I found some throwback pictures of myself. And let's just say I did something funny on my status as well. And then thanks to the music Constance played after the news, still a throwback song. And I have a guest in the studio. I don't know if he's crazy about throwbacks and all of that. Here's Dr. Joseph Orang, his state immunization officer. Good afternoon to you and welcome.
Good afternoon, Denise. I don't know what you mean by throwback. Are we
you know,
20 years back?
It depends. I mean, have you ever sat down and reminisced on, maybe, I don't know, you don't look like a picture person, no? A lot of men don't take pictures.
Most times people snap me and send it to me.
Send it to you, right? It's a male thing not to fancy or take pictures, but the younger generation, they're actually into pictures, both male and female, so they're going to have a lot of pictures that they will look back to some 10, 15, 20 years from now. But what do you remember from way back?
Everything,
yes, from the price of commodities.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I bought Gary 1 cup at 10 kobo.
10 kobo, okay.
So I met that time. It rose from 10 kobo to start buying for 50 naira and all that. And then before they changed the money to 50 naira notes.
The notes.
It was in coin and all that. So I remember those good old days. They dash you 5 kobo. You celebrate and celebrate and celebrate. And sometimes when they give you 5 kobo to put in church, you just connect and so they can buy. There's this bottle granite and ice cream they tie in waterproof. So you can,
they did not use the put off free.
Lotus cream now. Lotus cream. That bottle they will wash it and put granite inside. So that's 5 kobo. So you can buy it. Sometimes earlier you buy that Lotus bottle like 2 for 5 kobo.
5 kobo.
And
you were living the life.
It was good. An uncle comes around and dash you 10
that's a big. That's your favorite uncle.
Yes,
that's the uncle you look forward to come to the house. I had one uncle that promised me shortbread biscuits in the 90s. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Till today, I'm waiting for that shortbread biscuit.
He's still a nice uncle, at least to have the mind to promise.
No. You don't promise a child. I mean, I was in primary school at the time. You promised me and you didn't fulfill it. Come on.
He had the mind now. So
no. It's better not to promise. I still remember him till date. In fact, he was one of the people that... Yeah, he was one of the people that ate my bride price. And I marked it somewhere that you are owing me shortbread. You are not deserving of this bride price. You
would have deducted the shortbread money from the bride.
The value currently, Abi.
Yes, no.
I was so I just smacked him like this. I said, no, bad uncle, bad. Aye. But then I had another uncle that whenever he showed up, we call him Big Daddy. Things they happen.
Yes.
So I usually like him to come around and stay for days at the house.
And he will prepare before you come.
He prepares. But then again, he did something. Once upon a time, he gave my father a blank check. No, a check that bounced.
Wow.
One of those old banks. So he came and says, okay, I don't have money to give you, but I'm going to write you a check. And then he wrote me a check. And my dad went to the bank. And the banking system then was not the way it was now. So he had to wait. And then he got to his turn and the check bounced.
There's no money in the account.
There's no money in the account. And he comes back and he says, your uncle gave you a bounce check. He paid me.
So
but you see,
that erased all the good things.
He erased all the good things. Guess what? Time has a way of making two people meet.
Yes.
My father passed and he had to stand in as my father when I was 30. I still remembered. I did not forget. So for giving my dad a bounce check for me, that money you're supposed to eat as father's, because he ate father's money. I made sure that I did some deductions.
Wow.
I'm not a wicked person. I just have a good memory. But we're not here to talk about
Let's throw back.
That's throwback. It's
a very wicked one.
It's just throwback, ladies and gentlemen. I just remember. I'm sorry. I have that kind of memory, so there's nothing you do, good or bad, that I don't remember. But when you're here to talk throwbacks, even though the conversation we're going to have is going to be linked to how things used to be in time past, talking about immunization, vaccines. I mean, I remember once upon a time, children will die. Children will get infected with certain diseases that were quite common because we didn't have vaccines at the time. They were not going for immunizations. I mean, I can remember one which became a public health concern, so much so that we had PSAs talking about it and encouraging parents to allow their children get immunized, get vaccinated. Polio was one of them. I'm sure you remember. I mean, I used to see from the national television in those days, children, either a video of children or a picture of children. You see their legs, you see the way they are, and they tell you, oh, this is polio. And then you see, let's eradicate polio. And then the immunization thing started to roll out the vaccines, mostly sponsored by government. All parents had to do was make their children available when the immunization officers will come to each compound and give them the vaccines. So today, from way back, we're bringing the conversation because it's something that is, I mean, COVID-19 taught us something. You needed to get your COVID vaccine. You needed that card to show that you had indeed, whether it's first dose, second dose, or whatever. But then there's still misconceptions around immunization vaccines. So to you, the listener, joining us on X or Facebook or YouTube, my question is, how receptive and willing are you to receiving immunization vaccines? So drop your comments in the comment section. In course of the conversation, I will definitely read them. The WhatsApp number is 0809 030 6416. Once again, 0809 on WhatsApp, 030 6416. My guest, I introduced him before, but let me introduce him in a bigger capacity. Immunization. Why did you do that?
I don't know bigger capacity.
Immunization experts,
Yes.
State immunization officer. That is where.
Thank you for the hyping.
Dr. Joseph Orang, welcome to the sunny side today.
Thank you, Denise.
Okay, so shall we begin?
Yep.
What immunization vaccines are available? But before that, what is immunization? I mean, I don't want to assume that a lot of us know. I don't want to assume that the knowledge that we have before now is the same knowledge available. So I like to start from the very beginning. Immunization and vaccines, what are they?
You can move to B, calling A.
Exactly.
I understand what you're trying to
say.
Now, clearly, you're trying to join the two words, immunization and vaccination. Vaccination is the act of giving a vaccine. That vaccine could be through oral, injectable, whatever method you use. But the process of giving the vaccine is what they call vaccination.
Vaccination, okay.
Now, the process of the vaccine that you are given to give protection to that individual against the particular disease you have in mind, you're targeting, is called immunization. Now, the vaccine goes in, it stimulates immune response, so it mimics the natural disease. Let's say you want to protect for measles, so you vaccinate the person with measles vaccine. You inject the person with measles vaccine. Now, as you inject the person with measles vaccine, that vaccine goes in, mimic the natural disease as if the person is exposed to the disease, then stimulates the body response. We had soldiers around, so the body now responds, now produce antibodies against that disease. So that's the process of stimulating immune response. So once the person has that immune response, the body is now ready to fight the disease. So that process of stimulating immune response and getting protected against the disease is what is referred to as immunization. So you now understand the two concepts. The concept of using the vaccine to vaccinate the person is the vaccination. The process of acquiring immunity from the vaccination is referred to as immunization. So you don't need to interchange immunization for vaccination. I don't know if you understand.
I get you.
So that's a clear definition of that. Now, when the person has immunity, that the person is immunized against the disease. So when the person is exposed to the disease without the knowledge of the person, the body fights against that disease and the person is fine. The person doesn't know that he have attack from any of those diseases and the person is fine. So I think that clears that particular part.
So if you have ever taken a vaccine for any disease, you have been vaccinated, then your body is not immune.
No, body now produces antibodies to fight against that disease. That is now prepared to fight against. So that's the process of immunization. So once you have immunity against that disease, you are immunized.
You are immunized. Interesting. So it has to be, the vaccine itself is more like a touch of what the disease is.
Yes, because whatever it is, if you're using a measles, you bring in measles vaccine, remove the part that will cause the disease, but the part that will stimulate immune response is the one
that's what
injected.
You give. Yes. Interesting. So for the COVID-19 vaccine, it means that
it depends on the COVID-19 vaccine. For the English one that the Indians are produced for them, AstraZeneca. So that particular one, they use antigens and viruses that have spike proteins on them. I just don't want to break into it. I'm trying to bring it so that every layman will understand. So they have spike proteins that have similar features with COVID. So once you inject, that spike protein actually stimulates and create a picture as if it is COVID, and there will be immune response. So once COVID comes, COVID has spike proteins, that's the crown on them. You understand? So COVID is a group, it's part of the coronaviruses and all that. So it recognizes it as COVID and it responds to it. So that's that. The mRNA-based vaccines, like the ones they said is going to, they are taking your DNA and all those stories ahead they used to give about it. So that actually replicates the DNA of the virus, so the RNA of the virus. So what they do is that in the RNA of the virus, if this is there's one thing we call proteins, the linking of those proteins. So the young African, black Africa, I don't know if she's a Nigerian, some people say she's a Nigerian, she look at the sequencing, the protein sequencing, the genetic sequencing of COVID, and mimicked it and produced our own vaccine. That's the RNA-based vaccine, the Moderna, the Pfizer, and all that. That's the base. So they mimicked the sequencing of the coronavirus, the proteins that made up. So that sequence. So she mimicked it and produced it. So once you inject it, it goes straight to the RNA. They produce something that looks like the COVID virus, and the body responds. So when you take that particular vaccine, the body has seen and be ready for that particular thing. So once the COVID virus comes, you say, oh, I remember this kind of protein or this sequencing. Based on this sequencing, no, they will start attacking it as foreign, and the person will be safe. Just like an armed robber comes to your house, he opens the window, enters into your house. So you already know armed robber passed through the window. The next time, what will you do? Your protection will be there. You fortify your window. You put protectors. You keep knife near that place. So anytime the armed robber comes, you pick your knife and you match at the armed robber. So that's the same thing the body responds. I've seen this thing before. It looks like what will cause harm to this body I am protecting. So based on that, immediately you sense it, the body attacks it. And the person is well without knowing that the person has been exposed to that level of attack. So it depends on the vaccine you're talking about.
Okay. So we'll come back and talk more about the vaccines available in Nigeria. But for now, we have to go on a commercial break. Like I said, we're live on X at Nigeria Info PH is our X handle. And our Facebook page is Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. So there, watch us live and be a part of the conversation. Conversation continues after the break. Stay tuned. Conceptions around immunization, vaccines. So, moving forward, the available ones in Nigeria for children, for adults, and what exactly do they prevent? Or what exactly are they intended for?
Okay, let me start with the first. Every country has what we call a pattern of disease or disease occurring in those countries.
Okay.
So basically, if you want to blow the big English, you just say the epidemiology of diseases in that particular country. So based on that, you actually will fashion out your vaccination program based on disease occurrence in that country. So it will not be very safe for us to say we have a schedule in Nigeria, and like some of us do, the affluent people, those big people like you want to go to private settings.
Who is a big person?
Yes. We had a little discussion before now. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, no problem. You deny me. All right. There's no problem. So those affluent people combine these two schedules. The diseases that are prevalent in America, US, might not be diseases that are prevalent in Nigeria. So the Nigeria program will look at what diseases are our challenges here. What is the public health issue here? What do we need to prevent? And that's how you now design a schedule to contain those diseases. So from the Nigerian schedule, we have the BCG. BCG is the abbreviation, Bacillus calmette guarin. Is the name of the man who found the disease. It's for tuberculosis. It's actually not a human tuberculosis. It's usually from porcupine, from pigs or whatever. Let me not go to the details of that. So they extracted it, killed off the part that can actually cause the disease, but allow the part that can stimulate immune response. It's just a one shot. At birth, it's expected that you give it at birth. So once the child is giving birth to, that BCG jab is given. And of course, the hallmark of that is here a scar. Usually it's a small scar. They call it the BCG scar. So we expect that every child within this age range, within this period or this length of time, like in our time, it wasn't very common.
But whenever BCG, you see a child with that scar, you just know.
So that's the BCG scar.
But is the scar supposed to be, and everybody that had it?
That shows that there was a reaction. That shows there is a reaction. So once the child is taking that, just one shot, and that is for life. Child is protected against TB, tuberculosis. Then still at birth, you give what we call the oral polio vaccine. That's the first introduction of the oral polio vaccine for polio. And you give hepatitis B. So oral polio 0, hepatitis B 0. That's for birth. But for OPV, that is oral polio vaccine, and hepatitis B, you can't give within 6 weeks, 2 weeks after birth. Reason being that you still need to give the second shot of those vaccines by 6 weeks. So we tell mothers to come back after the birth set bad vaccines, and they come back at 6 weeks. At 6 weeks, you give the oral polio vaccine 1. You give the that is the OPV 1. You will now give another set of vaccine we call the pentavalent vaccine. Pentavalent, short for penta.
Okay, penta.
Yes.
I remember penta.
Pentavalent vaccine. Now, why do they call it pentavalent? It contains 5 vaccines in one.
Wow.
5 antigens in one. So it's one vaccine, but 5 antigens. It contains hepatitis B. It contains Haemophilus influenza type B. It contains diphtheria. It contains pertussis. And it contains tetanus. So 5 vaccines in one. So that's what you call the pentavalent. Pentavalent means 5.
Oh.
So remember, you had given hepatitis B the first shot at birth. So this child receives the second shot in the pentavalent vaccine. So you give the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, which is the PCV. I hope the names are not disturbing you.
They are disturbing. See, this is why I ran away from all these sciences, medicine.
Let me use the abbreviation so that we'll all be safe.
No, we need to know.
Yes,
so that when we go, we know we show that we know that we listen to Nigeria Info when Dr. Joseph was here. So give us the details. Thank you very much.
The pneumococcal conjugate vaccine is PCV. It actually helps in preventing meningitis from pneumococcal bacteria, pneumonias, and the rest of sepsis and all that. So it prevents that. So the pentavalent, like I said, 5 antigens prevent 5 diseases: hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza type B, tetanus, pertussis. You know pertussis, diphtheria. Pertussis, that whooping cough now. Child will cough, and hang. Diphtheria, you now see the child's jaw swollen and all that. So now,
is it not mumps?
Diphtheria is different from mumps.
Okay.
But it's fine. Just understand it that way.
Okay.
Now you're scratching your head thinking of those diseases. They are not looking common, like you said. Before now, they were common. But because immunization is working, you're beginning to think, have I seen this disease? And I'm sure your child will never even see the majority of those diseases. So that's for penta, the pneumococcal conjugate vaccine. Then we are now trying to bring in the injectable polio vaccine. We call it the IPV. So at 6 weeks, we'll give the first shot of the IPV. It joins in supporting the prevention of polio. Because remember, you have the oral polio vaccine and you have the IPV as well. Then the rota vaccine. So these are the series of vaccines you give in the 6 weeks. When it gets to 6 weeks, we now call them series vaccine. Because at that point, you start giving them in series. So the child comes back at 10 weeks. So at 10 weeks, you now repeat these same vaccines. Now the OPV will not be OPV 1 again. It will be OPV 2. The pentavalent vaccine will not be pentavalent 1 again. PCV 1, penta 1. It will now be penta 2. The PCV will not be PCV 1 again. It will now be PCV 2. The only vaccine you will not give at that time that you give at 6 weeks is the IPV. So rota will now be rota 2 instead of rota 1. But it's the same vaccine you're repeating. Then the child comes back at 14 weeks. At 14 weeks, you repeat the same thing you gave at 6 weeks, including the IPV. But your IPV will now be IPV 2, while the rest of other ones will be Penta 3, PCV 3, OPV 3. I don't know if you understand them. So those are the series vaccine. Now, once a mother has completed that at 14 weeks, the next time the mother is supposed to bring the child back is in 6 weeks, that you now come for vitamin A.
6 months.
6 months, sorry. 6 months, they come for vitamin A. Then you come back at 9 months to come and receive the first dose of the measles vaccine. Then yellow fever is just 1 in a dose in the whole of the schedule. Then meningococcal conjugate vaccine. For short form, we call it MEN-A. Men A. Meningitis in the north now caused by Neisseria meningitidis. So we have different serotypes A, B, Y, C, and the rest of all that. So, but studies have shown that we have commonly the A serotype causing large outbreaks around that. Well, though the dynamics are changing. In fact, the meningitic belt is reducing, so it's even spreading down and so on. But we have in our schedule the Men A. Until when studies have shown that we have other serotypes, then probably the nation will consider and probably introduce other serotypes. But what we use now is the Men A, meningococcal conjugate vaccine serotype A. But in short form, it's called Men A. So you take that at 9 months, then the child comes back at 15 months, which is 1 year, 3 months.
1 year, 3 months, okay.
To take the second dose of measles vaccine.
After 6 months, it's
9 months.
9 months. Then 1 year,
1 year, 3 months, which is 15 months.
15 months.
Yes. So because we introduced the 15-month schedule, that's how the routine immunization schedule now moved from under 1 to under 2.
Under 2.
Yes. So every child that is under 2 child has not taken any vaccine, you have a right to rearrange the schedule. So it's not based on this one. This is the schedule, but this is what is inside the book. But on the field, in the facilities, sometimes the child can come at 6 months and the child has not received any vaccine.
Wow.
So you need to start up the entire schedule. Apart from the OPV 0 that you give at birth, hepatitis B 0 that you give at birth, you give all. Then for BCG, which is for tuberculosis, once the child is more than 1 year, the health worker will request that the mother does a TB test to be sure the child does not have TB.
Before giving.
But if the child is less than 1 year, you give.
Wow, that's a whole
Then currently now we had introduced HPV,
yes,
human papilloma virus vaccine, and HPV is 9 to 14. But once we routinize it by next year, as a part of one of our routine vaccines, we are going to drop the age to 9 years. So now we have under 2 as routine. We have now added young girls of 9 years to 14 years on the other hand as well.
Is that HPV that has some gender bias?
Will you actually say it's gender bias?
And
looking at the burden of disease, where do you have cervical cancer?
Yeah.
Do men have cervical cancer?
No, but you see HPV.
Human papilloma.
Men have HPV.
Men are even the carriers.
So why not vaccine?
Yeah, the burden is what we're looking at, and one of the most expensive vaccines any program will look at is the HPV vaccine. So it's very expensive. Currently in the market, one dose vial. If you even look at Savarix that has 2 doses gives you about 60-something thousand. Even Gadase 4, that is one shot, you have about between 50 and 60,000 per vial, only one bottle, and one bottle is for one person. So very expensive. So if you look at the program, the burden, the costs implication, it's only huge countries that can actually look at giving the both sexes. So when you have limited funds like that, you need to probably focus on where is the burden of the disease. The males are carriers, yes. They could occasionally have penile cancer, yes. But what is the prevalence of penile cancer? It's very rare. But cervical cancer is, in the world, the 4th most common cancer in the world. And if you had a sister, an auntie, or somebody who had suffered from cervical cancer, you obviously know that it's not even worth thinking of. You need to prevent it at the earliest we can. And that's why the program is focusing on the females that actually has the burden of the disease.
So all of this vaccine, this, pentavalent, HPV, BCG, and the rest.
It's like you like the penta.
No, that penta carry weight. It's 5 in 1.
Yes.
Are they free?
Yes, in the routine immunization system in Nigeria, Rivers State is part of Nigeria, is actually free, absolutely free. Free of charge. Nobody should tell you to buy a syringe because the government provides everything.
What of Rota?
That's what I'm saying. All the vaccines I've listed out is in our schedule. And all these vaccines in the Nigerian schedule is provided by the government and partners. So it's free of charge. absolute free of charge. But we have a situation which most times the mothers that go to these health facilities abet those situations, go home, complain. When we get there to try and sort these things out, they even try to protect the health workers. Government has provided. Somebody tells you, oh, the government vaccine is not even there. We have to buy it for you and all that. Meanwhile, the person is using the government vaccine to vaccinate your child.
I mean, I'm talking from experience.
That's what I'm saying. You're not the only person. If I even tell you now, can we go to the health facility where they sold you that vaccine? You only say, I don't want somebody to be sacked.
No, I'm not afraid of
don't worry. Give me an appointment. Let's go to the health facility.
We'll go there.
So that's where the problem is. So they would deny the mothers will even help protect. But for all, everything is free. We get the vaccines from our zonal store. They even bring it to us. We distribute to the various LGAs and share it to all the health facilities. And we expect our health workers, if some of them, some funny characters, not behaving there. Of course, it's difficult to get them. Government proceeding. You have to get evidence before it starts discipline the person. So if those evidences don't come, then it's the problem. But it's free.
It is free. Okay. From your years of experience on the field, what are the common misconceptions you've encountered? As someone on the field, I'm sure you've gone from community to community. In fact, let me tell you this. While I had some of the representatives from the River State Health Board here talking about HPV, some of the comments I read showed clearly that some people still think differently about vaccines. Part of the reasons why a lot of Nigerians still did not take the vaccine for COVID. And they still will not. Oh, devilish, whatever. Yeah, of course, I saw some videos and people said when they took the jab, they put light bulb, the tin lit up, this one, that one, the other one. And then there are some people that their beliefs will not even allow them. Their beliefs will not allow them to take certain medications and all of that. What other one have I read? You are introducing the disease to my body. It means you are infecting me with the disease and all. But you can tell better. You're the one in field.
Well, it's a very big field. We call them generally the anti-vaccination group. So just to make it look stylish, we call it an anti-vac group. So they are anti-vac group. They wake up every morning and try to tell you things to discourage vaccination. But there are a lot of things they've said. Let me give you one example. During the COVID era, I was in one church. I won't mention the name of the church yes. So for purposes, the people who are members of the church don't feel somehow. Went there and I wanted to talk about COVID itself and talk about the solutions. And one of the key solutions is the vaccination and all that. So I was waiting for them to inform the pastor. And I was seated in the audience. I've already told the usher, whoever, one of the protocol, who was waiting for the pastor to finish his talk before they would go and meet him. Do you know what the pastor said? He said, anybody in this church who takes the COVID vaccine will go to hell.
Wow. That's huge.
And at that point, my preaching has ended.
So there's no point.
There's no point. Because their daddy has told them that
there's no
if they
point.
take the COVID vaccine, they are going to
hell.
hell.
Straight. They want to make heaven. Heaven is the goal.
And all that. He didn't stop at that. That it is antichrist. There's nothing he did not describe the COVID vaccine. Now this is why. Okay, look at the next other scenario. One period, because there is issue between military and one group of people in the east, and somehow military started coming to vaccinate with monkeypox vaccine. Between me and you, or in the science world, we know monkeypox does not have a vaccine. Yes, monkeypox has resurfaced, is endemic. We are seeing them at some point. We even see a severe form of chickenpox, but it's monkeypox. So it's only when it came up in Bayelsa, somebody in America has to even diagnose before we now knew that that's monkeypox, before we started looking for it in our region. And obviously, from time to time, you see monkeypox. So monkeypox is related to smallpox. Smallpox has a vaccine. Smallpox was eradicated in 1978-79, and the vaccines have been in archives. So where did we now get these vaccines from that they are now using to vaccinate children that doesn't even have monkeypox or are not at risk of having monkeypox? So in Port Harcourt, you saw people running from school to school. Hey, they say the soldiers, they are close to this place. Hey, you see children jumping fence, some breaking legs, some dying for no reason. We started chasing them. Where did you say the team? Say they are in the other school. You drive down to that school. In fact, we are driving against people running. You go to that school, you see people running. Where are the people now that are vaccinated? We are the ones in charge of vaccination in this state. We didn't send anybody out. They say, no, it's soldiers that are bringing it. You call the barrack. They say they are not aware of anything. And people are running for no reason. Anti-vax. Somebody wakes up in the morning and says, tell you HPV vaccine will cause sterility. Because when you take it, the girl child, why are they focusing on the girl? That's why I took time to explain why we focused on the girl, because of the burden of the disease, not because we want to sterilize the female. Now, this group, they just keep on inventing one thing or the other. Somebody came to my office one of these days. So they said, COVID, I said, me, I've taken it. Can you light this your bulb and bring it and come and put where I took the vaccine? They say, oh, no, spoon will stand. I say, I have spoon in the office. Okay, if you don't like my own spoon, let's assume that my own spoon, I have neutralized it. Go and bring your own spoon and let's put it. They put it, nothing is showing. So where did you see these ones happening? Hey, we saw it in one video. One lady came one day to my office and said, after she took the COVID vaccine, anybody she shakes, she'll be shocking the person. I said, so you are generating, well, can you shake me so that you will shock me? She brought out her hand and shook my hand. She said, no, you're wearing shoe. I said, okay, let me remove the shoe. I removed the shoe and we shook hands. So I don't know. The other people are complaining. I said, okay, don't worry. Maybe me. I have anti-electric.
Let me bring somebody else.
I called one of my staffs and said, can you shake this? The person shook her too. There was nothing happening. So these are misconceptions. People just wake up one morning, bring up issues, and majority of them don't have anything to contribute. In Nigeria, what are we doing? We are not producing vaccines. All the vaccines we are using in Nigeria are imported. All. Because we don't even have 24 hours light. Because the basic requirement of vaccine production, you must have 24 hours light. We don't have. They said in Aso Rock, light used to go. I have not entered there, so I don't know if light truly used to go there. But if light goes, that means the seat of power, light goes off. So that means we are not even qualified to even think of producing vaccine. Yes, we used to see in newspaper in 2027 we'll start producing. That's okay. Our baseline is steady power supply. So we need to have steady power supply. Colgate is from Canada. The toothpick we use, majority of them are from China. What do we produce?
You didn't talk about the part where some people said some of the vaccines sent to Africa, sponsored by a certain wealthy philanthropist,
Bill Gates,
is to eradicate. How did they put it? The population of the world.
That's what
was
I'm saying.
Too much.
Let me
was to
even give you
kill all of us.
Let me give you a background to that. That's one of the most callous things. I hope I'm right using that particular word for any person to even think. Well, for me to apologize for using that particular word, but you begin to imagine how people think. Bill Gates has the biggest malaria intervention in the world. Intervenes in malaria. Malaria is in Americans. But he sponsors the malaria drug across Africa. Bill Gates has the biggest intervention in HIV. I don't know if you understand it. Up to the level he pays for the drugs at the factory level and export drugs to all African countries. Challenge it. Look for it on the internet. The countries, including Nigeria, only pay for the import duties and distribute these drugs free of charge to the patients. Bill Gates still wants blacks and Africans to die. Now, look at COVID. Where is the issue of COVID? Because Bill Gates said, we have to produce vaccine. We have to produce vaccine to save the life of people. He paid for part of the vaccine research program. That is where people are now implicated. Bill Gates wants to kill everybody. Why does he want to kill everybody? Because he said the world will not be normal if we don't start vaccinating people against COVID. But for me, as an epidemiologist, I know that for you to be alive and witness one pandemic that means you have experience. So even as I am like this, as I'm dying, I'll be telling myself, even my spirit will be saying, at least I died and experienced one pandemic. Because pandemic comes once in 100 years. The last pandemic we had was the Spanish flu, and it occurred in 1918. And the last pandemic now is COVID that happened in 2019. Is it not 100 years? Bubonic flu that happened, the bubonic plague that happened, was 100 years before the Spanish flu. So you now have series of pandemics happening once in 100 years. We are struggling to survive as humans. That's how these organisms are struggling to survive. So they come back in different form and come and cause problem for you, and you battle it. Spanish flu, how many spikes do we have? They had more than 6 spikes because there was no vaccine intervention at that time. So they were using the natural method of the strongest survives and all that.
Okay, let's see how many messages I can read, because I wish you could come again, because we're pressed for time at the moment. Mira from Okrika says, good afternoon, Denise. Please, I need your help to reach Dr. Jeff. Okay, this is not Dr. Jeff, this is Dr. Joseph. Good day, Denise. What if after the child have been taking all the vaccine from childbirth to 6 months and the child is coughing and has swollen jaw? What do you do? Okay.
You need to find out what the swollen jaw is. It could be other illnesses. Could it be mumps? Mumps is usually transient, and we don't really have much issue. So, but whatever it is, we need to encourage people to have health-seeking behavior, so people can visit the health facilities, meet the doctors, and the doctors will look at it. But once you are vaccinated, it's very unlikely that you're going to come down with vaccine-preventable disease.
All right, someone says this topic is very simple. I don't know why people are confused about it. I'm opening the phone lines now. 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. Once again, 0817-923-0002 and 0817-923-0003. The WhatsApp and Telegram number remains 0809 0306416. Once again, 0809 0306416. On X at Nigeria Info PH, Facebook page Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. How receptive are you to receiving vaccines? Nigeria Info, good afternoon to you and welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, Denise. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Mira, go ahead.
Denise, please, just talk to me to message, please. You get what I'm trying to say. And I want to ask the doctor, there is this yellow fever vaccine that they give to children. There is something they will give the child after 8 years or something. So I don't know if it's any particular one is to post.
So Mira, your line is breaking. Yellow fever vaccine. I heard yellow fever vaccine. Yeah.
Yes, there is one they will write after giving the first shot. They will tell you to come after 8 years.
8 years.
Yes. To come for the next shot.
The next shot. Okay.
No, let's better confirm.
All right, Dr. Joseph.
Okay, for yellow fever, in our schedule is 1 shot.
1 shot.
Yes. So once the child is given, but we know that researchers are everywhere trying to say that after 10 years there should be some form of booster. But Nigeria as a country has not changed the schedule, apart from immigration that is saying it lasts for 10 years and all that. So those are winning immunity theories that if we go into it, I'm not sure we'll finish it now. But in our schedule, it's 1 shot.
We have the one they give adults, right?
The Nigerian immunization schedule don't have an adult apart from the travel vaccine.
The travel vaccine.
Yes.
Okay. Final caller. Nigerian Info. Go ahead. Quickly.
Right. So I was... Why your... the person on the studio didn't talk about the death, the meningitis vaccine death in Kano, and what caused it, and the many that happened all over the world as a result of the COVID vaccine, and which is still in court. So you should clearly tell us who paid him to disseminate some of this information is given on radio.
Who paid who?
Who paid him?
Who paid him?
Talk about the things he's talking about on radio.
Okay, nobody paid him. He's my guest. I told him to come and talk about it. Does that clear the air? Thank you.
Yes. So
would you want to react to that?
Well, he's one of the anti-vax that, there was a trial of vaccination activity, we'll call them phase 3 trial, and there were deaths resulting during the process and all that. And he is trying to link it to meningitis vaccine and so on. But there were outbreaks.
He says meningitis vaccine.
Yes, it was a trial, a stage 3 trial, which they now modified it and made it look like the issues are out of that. Then the COVID deaths, what they used to say there is in court. Can you bring the court papers anywhere? That's, one family died, 10 people died one time, and all that. Those things they are only just stories. So if there are court papers, can you present them? Then to clear the air, obviously, I'm not paid. I'm a staff of government and the state immunization officer and that. So nobody has paid me, and we are trying to tell you and educate people the true state of immunization. So it's not anybody paying anybody to come and talk about it.
What if you can't tell if a 5-year-old child took BCG or not? No sign on the shoulder. Can you go ahead and vaccinate?
Like I said, once it's more than 1 year, you need to do what we call a TB test to be sure the child does not have TB before you can vaccinate. Our schedule covers for under 2 years old. So once the child is out of 5, except there are large outbreaks that we can now extend the age group.
Okay, someone is actually accusing me of not reading the comment. Hardly do. I don't think I've ever seen your comment and did not read. Chief Obo Owen, that's a big accusation. It's funny people just conclude ignorantly Bill Gates is using vaccines to do evil in Africa. Well, as for me, I rather trust Bill Gates than any man of a 10% money collecting god. Okay. I think these are basically everything. I cannot take any more calls. I'm so sorry. The news comes up at 2. Final words from you, Dr. Joseph.
Well, and thank you very much for the opportunities to educate Rivers people and beyond. Vaccination works, because obviously if you look around you, you're not seeing measles, you're not seeing all those vaccine-preventable diseases as common as they were 20, 30 years ago. I know I've been a victim of measles and so on and so forth. So many persons have died from these processes. But with vaccinations now, you're having these diseases becoming very rare. So we need to ensure our children are vaccinated. You're not seeing children coming down with polio. You see 1.5 leg and all that. That is not happening anymore. So obviously, we can beat our chest and tell you the only public health intervention that you're seeing results, that you can beat your chest and say, this is working. Yes, other interventions are working, but immunization is top on that list. So health-seeking behavior, good health-seeking behavior is one of the things I want to recommend people to follow. Thank you very much.
And that brings us to the end of Misconceptions around immunization vaccines. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Orang, State Immunization Officer, for your time. Immunization expert.
Thank you for the hyping.
We look forward to more conversations centered around vaccines. And that brings us to the end of the sunny side today. Follow us at Nigeria Info on X. We are at Nigeria Info PH. Facebook page Nigeria Info 92.3 PH. On YouTube, we are Nigeria Info Port Harcourt, and on Instagram and Threads at Nigeria Info FM _PH. Follow me on X and Instagram at _Denise_Dennis. My Facebook page is Denise Dennis, and my Facebook account is Denise Dennis Wallo. Rivers Today comes up at 3, and thereafter, Hat Facts with Batterboy. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, on the sunny side. Adios.